We got some going on tonight, y'all. I just know that this is gonna sound awesome. I mean, this is like it's meant to be there. What? How can it be? We got the other Andrew in the house tonight. He don't like to be on camera, but we got him. We got some going on tonight, y'all. I don't know how you're gonna feel about this, but here's my issue with Coyotes in general, whether they're in a Fox body or stock in one of these cars. I cannot stand the exhaust note. If you guys are wondering, why do they sound so different? Well, a lot of it's got to do with the firing order, with the variable valve timing and shit I don't know anything about. But a lot of it also has to do with the exhaust placement. So if you look at how these cars are, so you come up here, you got your headers, comes down into a cat, through into a resonator, which doesn't do a whole lot. And then all of this long pipe right here and all these curves with the muffler being at the back, it gives it that more traditional, not traditional, but it gives it more of that exotic sound. And although it was kind of cool in the beginning, I just don't really like it that much. I like more of a throaty sound. I personally like the way the LS's sound better. I don't like the way the Dodges sound, I'm gonna be honest with you, but like the way a LS sounds or something, that's more, you know, Windsor based type stuff that we're used to. And the Coyote stuff is just not really my thing. Also, one of my favorite sounds ever, and you guys are probably gonna laugh, but is a 4.6 Mustang, old 2-valve 4.6 with 2-chamber Flowmasters. That is the pinnacle of Flowmaster sound in my opinion. They actually, to me, sound better than the Fox body pushrod stuff does with Flowmasters. But that's my opinion. Love, love, love the way those things just resonate through the pipes and it sounds awesome. Closer you can move the muffler up to the engine of the car, the deeper, the throatier the sound, because now all of this is gonna hit this and go woo, right? So it's got to travel through all this exhaust here, still carrying that deep note. That's just the way I see it anyway. The biggest thing here is to let you guys know how it sounds afterwards. In track mode, it opens up the exhaust, and we're hoping that you're going to start to hear a little bit of this Flowmaster sound. But we'll see. I don't know. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to work. Now, like I said, this has been done before, but let me show you guys just how freaking easy this was. We literally unbolted the exhaust right here, just unclamped it. And the freaking Flowmaster just slid right on. I mean, an absolute perfect match. Look at that. Perfect. You can't get any better than that. And look at this. Here's the cool thing. It sits completely flush up in the car. And I just know that this is gonna sound awesome. Now, right now, it doesn't have any tailpipes on it, obviously, so it's gonna sound like it's got kind of like turn downs, but we're gonna go ahead and start this thing up. I know it doesn't have tailpipes, but let's just hear what it sounds like. All right, whenever you're ready. I bet it's gonna sound good. Look at that. That sounds freaking awesome. Rev it up a little. What? What?
That sounds good.
Dude, that sounds freaking awesome. Wow, I'm digging that. I'm tempted to put turn downs on that. It sounds so good. Yeah. Oh my God, that's wicked. Try it again. What? What? Dude, does it sound good up there?
It sounds amazing.
That's crazy. It does not sound like a Coyote at all. Obviously, it sounds ridiculous, but I don't think I want turn downs on the car for obvious reasons. So here's what we're gonna have to do. We just need an extension from right here to here. That's all. And I've got some pipe over there, but it's gonna be cobbled together. I'm not gonna lie to you. So we're back to doing my normal crap here. I don't think this will be long enough here, and that looks like crap. Anyway, we're gonna figure this out, and I'll get back to you guys here in just a minute. I forgot I had bought these two pipes right here, so I had these, perfect, 18 inches long, We just hacked off a few sections of the exhaust like that. And look how freaking good all of this fits. Look at that. I mean, this is like it's meant to be there. Everything's perfect. So now nothing's welded at the moment. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and start it up. The tips aren't exactly straight yet, but. Yeah, track. All right. Okay. It sound any different to you? A little? Not a lot? Yeah. Rev it up again.
It's a little higher.
Yeah. But does it sound different than it did with the resonator?
Yeah.
It's hard to tell.
It's a little bit deeper, I think.
It's a little bit deeper. So that's in track mode. Let me stand back here and do it again. All right. Yeah, it's a little deeper. It's not much. Which, I mean, it's going through mufflers, so I'm thinking do the Flowmaster muffler delete and just use the pipes and not have the. Yeah, I think that would sound real good there.
It did sound a lot.
Yeah. Or once we do long tubes and everything else, it actually may sound really good with those mufflers. So I say we just go ahead and weld it up and we'll use it the way we got it. Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and weld all this stuff up, guys, and I'll be back with you here in just a few. We got a Flowmaster on the car, using it as like a resonator, if you will, and you can't tell a lot of difference with it in the air like this, but I do think it made a difference. It definitely deepened the car up some. And remember, guys, we will be doing exhaust on this car, so at that point it's probably going to really change the way it sounds. But for right now, it changed it a little bit. I just wanted to do it. I just honestly, it was something cool to do. It was $100 to do it, and just a little bit of time. So I'm gonna take a couple of pictures for you guys, post it up, and then we're gonna get this thing on the ground and listen to it, see what it sounds like, and then go drive it. So the microphone will be there, but I want to back the car up, we'll rev it a little bit, see what it sounds like. Well, let's be honest, it's not a lot different, but you can tell that we did something for sure. But all that's going to change here pretty soon anyway. So we're going to go ahead and go drive the car, and I guess we'll take you for a quick ride in it and see how it sounds from inside the cabin. All right, y'all, it's going to be a little dark, but we also have a tune on the car as well that you guys do not know about yet. So we have been tuning on the transmission and the engine, and we are on our second revision. We have a new tuner for the channel that we're going to talk about. I'm not going to get into it in this video, but stay tuned because we have a tuner and he is extremely good. So we'll talk about that. You guys are not going to probably be able to hear this, but we'll take you for a ride anyway. Sounds quieter. Which, I mean, hell, I'm fine with that too. I do know it's gonna sound good if I do the muffler delete. I know that. That's gonna sound awesome. It's got a unique little sound, but it's definitely quieter for sure. And that's in track mode. Wow, that's extremely quiet. Holy shit. I didn't realize that resonator was going to do that, but it's all good. Well, we'll probably just go to the Flowmaster muffler delete. Start to sound good then. Or we can wait and see what it sounds like with long tubes and an X-pipe. So we'll go ahead and make a quick hit with the car with the new tune. So it's got an engine tune on 93, and it's also got a transmission tune. Just gonna bow it up about 1500 and then try to leave. It's probably gonna try to spin. We're in normal mode. It's way harder when it leaves now. She takes off pretty damn good. So there again, it's not completely tuned. That's just the first revision, but yeah, that's leaving at 1500 RPM. I'm impressed. The shifts are way firmer. It's further down, like 7500 is where it's shifting at now. So yeah, I'm impressed. And it's only gonna get better from here. Let's try about 2 grain. It's probably gonna spin like hell. Ooh, there we go. Woo! Damn! Holy shit. Oh yeah, 2 grand was the number. This is crazy, man. This thing's pulling really good to be just a stock motor, you know?
It chirped again, catching that gear.
Yeah. We're using Dennis, and he is who tunes Andrew Hanlon's car. So there you go. He's going to be our tuner for the channel. I think you guys are really going to like him. He's an awesome guy, down to earth. But with that being said, he's not going to be able to tune everybody's car. I told him, you know, make sure we don't overwhelm you with this stuff. So pick and choose, do whatever you feel like you need to do, but let's not overwhelm you. So if you guys are interested, he can do Terminator X and Fox bodies. He can do Coyote stuff. There's just a lot of stuff he can do. So I'll put the email up for you guys on the screen right now, and also you can go in the description and there'll be a link there for his email. So super nice guy. He's done a bang up job on his car. He nailed it the first time. So with that being said, let's try it from a slow roll and see how she acts. Oh yeah. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. We tried something new, or not new, but we tried something different. I don't know, you be the judge. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one, and as always,
Thanks for watching.
there we go. So we got Dennis on the phone with us right now. He's probably gonna be our tuner for the channel.
Looking forward to it.
That's right. So you're with you have a company, All Stock Racing. So give us a little bit of your background.
You know, I'm an enthusiast with cars, just like most of the rest of the people in your group are. You know, just do it as a hobby and hot rod and kind of fell in love with it. And it's been, you know, pretty much a passion through my life. And, you know, got into tuning cars and having a dyno. And, you know, years ago I had done a couple and basically just kind of, you know, it really stuck with me, and it was one of those things where it was exciting. You know, you're making power, you're picking up speed at the track and power and everything else, and you just, you know, it becomes a passion, you know, and you turn it into a business, and you know, it's very useful. You know, it's helpful, it's needed. It's one of those things that, you know, can't be overlooked, and you know, over time, you know, as you do it, you get better at it, and you just, you know, it lures you in, man. You know, it's one of those things that you just become super passionate about, and you know, you roll with it.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of business, that's not the only thing you do. So you are a busy man, and we want to go ahead and let everybody know that how can we word this? You're going to kind of interview
maybe people kind of pick and choose what you're able to do because you are extremely busy. You don't just tune vehicles for people.
I've got I'm like a third generation glazer as well. I've got a glass company my father owns. I've been with him for years, and I've always done the Mustangs as, like I said, a passion. That it's if I didn't have two children, it would be a whole lot more that I'd be able to do. But like you said, I am limited. But when it comes to tuning, it's something that I definitely can get involved with people on more of a one-on-one basis. I don't want to tune to the masses, so to speak. We've got a lot of abilities here, and we've wrote a lot of calibrations over the years, and I just feel that 90% of your crowd I could take care of when it comes to their tuning needs, but I just don't want to get into a point to where you have 100 phone calls coming in a day.
Guys, we've run into this problem before. It can happen overnight. Tons of people start calling, and look, it's one guy, okay? So he's going to do the best that he can do to work people in, but I always like to bring the tuner into the channel that's really good and can help people. So me and you have talked a lot. I mean, we probably already spent 6 hours on the phone talking, and we're a lot alike. We have a lot of the same interest and views and everything else. I really like the way you go about doing things, and I think the guys will as well. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. This is not an advertisement. He doesn't need the business. It's not that. This is just letting you guys know that, hey, we have found one of us that tunes. You know what I mean? That's kind of where we're at with this. And speaking of which, we have started tuning on the 21.
We've gone into it and we've done some fuel delivery optimization and some ignition timing adjustments, and really got the thing to cooperate and make some power as far as the way it shifts and drives, and handling some of the power enrichment, and removing some of the factory restrictions that are on it, your basic stuff that you do with the mods that you have on it. So I'm interested to see how it goes, talking with you and working back and forth, logging it. It sounds like you're pretty happy with it. So
Yeah, it's picked up for sure.
there's a lot of unlocked potential when it comes to these cars. The factory, they're quite mild, man, the way they put them out, and they gotta do that just to keep everything soft, keep everything livable. And when you can start bringing the RPM out of those things and bringing the spark advance into them, they respond really, really well, man. So they're kind of easy, you know what I mean, when it comes from that point of view, compared to what you had to do back in the day to make power. They're sophisticated, but they're capable at the same time.
For sure. Well, back in the day, a tune didn't do a lot to a Fox body. I mean, if you were looking for a couple extra horsepower to beat your buddy, I mean, sure. But chips and things like that. But tunes, I remember, putting heads, cam, intake, all that stuff on these cars and no tune at all on an old Fox body. You can kind of work around it and things like that. But these cars you can't do that with, obviously. So you go changing too much stuff, well, very little, and you need a tune. I can tell you've already tuned a bunch of these cars because the first tune you sent was already on point. You know what I mean? Like it was good. I thought we were going to have to go through this long process of revisions and logs and everything else, and really no.
I've done several of them. I wouldn't say, compared to some of these guys that are tuning them where they're writing 20 calibrations a day, 30 calibrations a day, I'm nowhere near that status, you know what I mean? But I've got a dyno shop, and we've sat down and we've made, several different base templates that we've done with them. And so I've got a pretty good, slate to start with, as far as like I wouldn't call it a catalog yet, but I've got several base tunes. And the thing with these cars is they're pretty similar. You know what I mean? You're having, most of them are going to have some type of a JLT, a header, but when it comes down to it, you're not going in there and modifying compression ratios, a lot. So a lot of the base calibrations that you do work on most of them, and then you've got to, go back and do some revisions. And that's where I like to really deal with the customer that I'm dealing with, the guy that I'm dealing with on his car or girl, you know what I mean? So that we can kind of get it tuned to their liking, shift points, firmness of shifts, RPMs, really try to do a quality calibration overall. So, that's why we went through it through a few different revisions, and trying to get things on point, and I think I'm pretty sure we're right where we need to be with yours, man. So I'm looking forward to you getting back out, lining up against some of the cars you've already raced, getting to the track with it.
So you can tune Terminator X.
Terminator X, Diablo Sport, those are the two that I mainly do the Fox bodies with. It's a little bit more involved doing it. You've got to spend a little bit more time up front, but Fox bodies, I love them, man. That's what I grew up racing. I've had many, many, many combinations myself, so I've got a pretty good library when it comes to those as well. So I pretty much can handle most Fox bodies. It's just the guys that are putting them together, and the cars have got to be right to start with, which, that can be a challenge at times. So if you can work together with each other and be on the same page, most of the time you can do a good calibration as well. The tools are there now, especially with Terminator X, to be able to do that, where you can actually data log, you can email, there's things you can do remotely with them that it's a little bit trickier doing with Diablo Sport just because you don't have the data logger capabilities. So yeah,
Yeah.
Terminator X would probably be a better candidate for that, but even with that, if you've got, the capabilities to get voltages off of your mass air meter, and you got wide bands and a way to record it, if you got the right data logger on a Fox body, you still can do those with some of the older softwares as well.
Speaking of which, that's something that I do want to cover real quick because this is extremely important, especially for the Fox body guys that are going to want to tune. So if you compare it to like a stock Coyote car, most of these are, dare I say, cookie cutter, but most people aren't doing heads, cams, and things like that. They're either, cold air intake, long tubes, maybe a blower, and you kind of know what you got here. Well, if we go back to the Fox bodies and we're going to do, say, a Terminator X on this, and you want this thing tuned, guys, you have got to go through a checklist, okay? And this is something that he's going to want to talk to you about as well. Look, there are so many variables that go into this. If you think about it, if we're trying to make a Fox body fast, what are we going to do? We're going to put heads, we're going to put cams, probably built engine. God knows what the compression is. Do you have any intake leaks? Like, there's so many things that are different and that can go astray.
Fuel
Versus,
system calibration for the injectors, there's a lot of different pieces that you need to have the information versus, like you said, something that's, kind of more of a cookie cutter, so to speak.
yeah, I don't really have a better term for it, but not to offend anybody, but essentially that's what it is. I mean, at this point, it's kind of like going back to the 0304 Cobra days, and everybody did a pulley or a ported blower or whatever. Nobody was really changing heads. Nobody was doing that. They were a lot easier to kind of you knew they were put together. With this, guys, you may have just literally put a set of roller rockers on it, and now you want to tune. But what did the guy do before you? Or is the intake leaking? How's the fuel system? The voltage, all this stuff matters. So just make sure that you contact whatever tuner you're using and kind of get a checklist from them, if you will. I think that'll help everybody out, because what you can't do is you can't bring your problem to a tuner and expect them to be your mechanic. Okay. That's where you get into a bunch of money and all sorts of other issues.
When you're going back to the Coyotes, you've got a bunch of guys that do like the, weekend warriors that like to race them. They're still street cars. So when you're tuning them, you got to keep that in mind as far as drivability, and as well as, them holding up over time. So
Yeah.
certain mods, are doable, certain mods aren't. When it comes to streetable mods, blowers to a certain level, fuel systems to a certain level. I think that's more of what people are after these days is the Coyote tuning. The older Fox body stuff is those are really custom calibrations, man. I mean, you can't really take information from one and put it onto the next like you can on the newer cars, like you said, just because
Yeah.
the variance is just so different that it just makes it hard.
Well, look, guys, we're not going to get too deep into this. I just wanted to kind of introduce Dennis and All Stock Racing to everybody because he's worked with me, and I'm telling you, it's been such a good experience. And things have went really smooth. The car, every time we get a revision, this thing is just quicker and quicker. When you first start with a car, I guess especially a 10R80 car, you typically start with two separate tunes.
I usually go through and get the transmission shifting right and get everything, shifting properly. That way you don't have the issue of trying to bring in extra torque with the engine and having things go awry that way. Usually once you get everything dialed in and pretty stable and to your liking as well, you know what I mean? Making sure you're not hitting limiters where it's shifting, it's not too harsh, you know what I mean? Because you can adjust shift firmness in several areas, the same with the speed of it. And it's kind of, you got to sit with your customer ahead of time on that and try to visualize or at least understand what they want out of it. I know one time we put a revision in there where you noticed a difference on its shift, and I think you liked it a little bit softer, so we softened it back up. And
Yeah.
then once you get all that stuff stabilized and you get everything right, then you can go back into the engine You know what I mean? And start putting in some power into it. And it's just, I just usually do it that way because it's easier. You can do it all at one time, but it's just easier to data log when you're doing one system at a time than when you put the two together. And it's kind of a nice experience for you as well as a, you know, a first time guy with a Coyote to kind of
Yeah.
see that.
I guess we need to cover what we're using to tune the car with. So we're using HP tuners, RTD. For a lot of you Fox body guys, and I know a lot of you guys that are watching obviously have Coyotes as well, but coming from a Fox body, you know, being able to use my phone to data log was just crazy. And you get to send your logs through your phone. You know, everything's Bluetooth. It's awesome. It's been so good. So whenever I data log a car and then upload it, you get a notification, you can see it, you can view it, and then you send the new revision out or whatever, and it's right. You can do it all from the phone. It's been so convenient.
Yeah, the remote tuning delivery network, you know, it's really a slick setup. You got to really give HP tuners credit on it because it's, you know, they've given you the tools that you needed. You know, I can write a channel list of certain things I want to data log. It doesn't confuse you with trying to sit down and open up an editor or a data logger and try to configure all that to work. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
done. You know, you go out, you hit a couple buttons on your phone, you Bluetooth it, it sends me all the information. I'm able to read it all, go back through it, edit it. And then at the same time, I can send you a tune and it puts it right back into your tool. You know, as soon as you sync up with your phone, which is not a real difficult thing to get through to learn either. They kind of made that communication easy. It takes a little bit of work to do it, but it's not super difficult, you know, with a little instruction. And you know, you hit a couple buttons, it sends a tune into your car, and you know you're off. And if you're at the track, you can make revisions doing that. There's a lot of tools on your phone that you can do now, and you know you got code reading capabilities, you know, tuning capabilities, data log capabilities, all in one. And it's pretty interesting, man. You know,
Yeah.
they've got it high tech, you know.
It is so different and it's so much easier than say the Terminator X when you got to have a laptop out and everything else. So it was nice. It was a nice change of pace. If you guys are going Terminator X, which I recommend, you know, with the old wiring and everything else on these cars at this point, you might as well just go Terminator X. There are plenty of guys out there that can tune your car for you, and you've got about everything you could possibly need for that Fox body to be tuned. That Terminator X offers a lot of options, and that's really what I recommend.
Yeah, when you get everything upgraded to a Terminator X, you know, you get rid of the A9L, you get rid of all the old wiring and circuitry. I mean, things are just so much faster. The car
Mhm.
runs so much smoother when you get them right, you know. Oh yeah, Andrew Hanlon. Yep, we're
Yeah.
working on his setup now. He's got a pretty hot setup. You know, him and his buddy. You know, they're those guys are great, man. Those cars are coming around, and Adam's gonna be bringing his out here pretty soon. So hopefully we can get his running. You know, 950s, 960s. I think he'll be happy. And you know, Adam Moldenhauer, he's got his, and it's, you know, more of like a 930s, 940s, all motor, you know, Gen 3 setup in that one with a Cobra Jet on it. And Andrew, he's a solid guy, man. You need transmissions. That's definitely the guy you want to talk with, you know.
For sure. If you guys need anything, you go to Hanlon Motorsports over there. I mean, hell, look who his dad is, you know, Banging Bob Hanlon. You actually come highly recommended from Andrew Hanlon. So that's how we got to, you know, talking and things like that. And man, it's just been seamless. So
Yep, we've had some fun.
anyway, look, man, I just want to thank you for coming on the channel and helping everybody out, giving us this information. And I'll send everybody over to your Facebook page. They can
All
look at
right.
you over there.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to working with you in the future and working with your guys and, you know, seeing what we can do and, you know, and have some fun in the process. And it's been great, man. Great experience all the way around, and looking forward to continuing with you.
All right, y'all. Well, that's Dennis at All Stock Racing, and we'll catch back up with you guys after a while.